listening to Give God 90, where we're not afraid of the tough biblical questions, because we will dig through the language, the culture, and the history to find the truth revealed in the words of our Creator.
Happy Monday, everyone. Thank you for sharing some of that with us, or whenever you're listening. I will be up front and say that we are recording this a little early because we've got a lot going on today, I hope. We're hopefully having some things taken care of today. If you like what you hear, please share it, because if you like it, chances are your friends and family will like it, and your neighbors really need to hear it too, and your enemies especially need to hear it. So put it out there. If you've not been to givegod90.com lately, you might want to check that out. If you're new here, we appreciate you giving us a listen, seeing what we're all about.
Absolutely.
You might be surprised at some of the things you hear, because I don't hold to tradition. You're not going to hear the typical message that you would normally hear, okay? And we like to have fun when we do it. So just, there's your warning. When I was very young, 5, 6 years old, something like that, I can't remember exactly when it started, my mother insisted persistently that I take piano lessons from the neighbor. And really having no choice in the matter, I tried to make the best of it, kind of. I wasn't really the best student. Piano didn't entice me. I don't know why. And my piano teacher, Mrs. Woodhall, bless her heart, she had more patience than Job must have had, because she had me for a student. She would say, you need to practice, because practice makes perfect. Well, I practiced, and even though I thought I was playing the notes correctly, apparently I wasn't most of the time. And it's not just learning to play an instrument that we need to practice. Anyone who is beginning to learn something new needs to put that new skill to use. Doesn't matter what you are. If a lawyer graduates law school, passes his bar exam, does that mean they're the perfect lawyer? No, it does not mean they're the perfect lawyer. They have to practice. They have to continue to learn. If a doctor, goes through all of his college, all of the medical school, becomes board certified, does that mean they're the perfect doctor? Nope. It sure doesn't. Because you never know what you're going to run into, right? People are people. They react to things differently. Not every person, even though, it may seem similar, not everything is going to present itself the same all the time. If a musician goes to music school, gets all the best grades in all of the classes they take, does that make them the perfect musician? No, it doesn't. Not them either. You see, no one can really be considered perfect, because there are any number of things that can interfere with perfection. If a musician is given a sheet of music, and that piece of music they're given has a mistake on it, they practice it exactly as it's written. They become proficient. Have they achieved perfection? No, not if the music has a mistake in it, even if it's not the musician's fault. They've not achieved perfection. They've only achieved perfect practice. Because, even though it wasn't their fault, if there's a mistake in the music, it carries through. if a craftsman, for instance, builds a set of dining room chairs, and he's working on the last one, and he realizes, uh-oh, the others that I've already made have a mistake. Does the craftsman make the last one exactly the same as the others and say, oh, that's good enough? Or does the craftsman go back and repair the errors in the others to make them as close to perfect as possible? Hopefully, he goes back and corrects his mistake. Would a lawyer try a similar case that he's had in the past exactly the same way as he's trying a new case that, even though there's some similarities, there's also some differences? I would hope that he would customize the way he would present that case to the judge to best suit his client, right? You don't say, well, it worked the last time. And you certainly wouldn't say, well, it didn't work the last time, so we're going to do it again. You hopefully learn from your past mistakes and correct them. A doctor who's diagnosed 100 patients in the past with the same symptoms and had good results, and all of a sudden, you run across that one person it doesn't work for. Does you say, well, it should have worked for you? It worked 100 times before. You see, you have to practice. You have to be able to identify what's right, what's wrong, how you're going to approach the problem, and how to correct any mistakes that you find along the way. Practice takes time. Practice takes diligence. And practice takes motivation. If we simply practice something hoping only to be, it's good enough, then we only achieve perfect practice. We don't achieve perfection. Perfection is a very, very difficult goal to reach, and it should be. And if we practice doing something wrong, we're never going to achieve perfection. And that's kind of what I want to look at today. Take, for example, an athlete. If an athlete practices day after day, week after week, until they're ready to either try out for a team, maybe go to competition, hopefully that young athlete is practicing correctly, but sometimes they don't. And that's when the result of practice can be either disappointment or, worse yet, injury in the case of an athlete, right? Because if you practice something incorrectly, you do risk injury. We need to often have someone show us how to practice, just like my piano teacher. Nope, hold your hands this way. Nope, got to do it this way. You have to, finger placement. Don't watch your fingers. Watch the music. I still remember that. and having someone guide you through that is why we have coaches. It's why we do things we do. It's the reason that lawyers, when they come out of law school, they often go into a law practice with other lawyers. Doctors are the same way. They go into a doctor's office practice, is what they call it, and they work with a team of doctors so that they can gain more knowledge. We should never stop learning. And here's where I get to make my point. Believers are no different. Believers need to have experienced believers to show them how to practice their faith correctly. Because if you practice it incorrectly, you can either become very disappointed or you may even cause injury to yourself later. But unfortunately, finding experienced believers who practice their faith according to the Bible is very difficult. We have a lot of people out there that are throwing stuff around that just is more tradition or more denominational doctrine, I'm going to use the term religious garbage than what you can actually find in the Bible. And that's why a lot of people today are walking away from the Christian churches, because they realize what they're hearing coming out of the pulpit is not what is found in the Bible. But, you do have the ultimate guide on how to practice your faith. And you probably got one of these guides somewhere where you can lay your hands on it. If you have a Bible, or you know where you can get one, that is your ultimate guide. And I'm going to say that practicing your faith correctly is not difficult. It's fairly easy. In fact, Moses even tells us it's kind of close to us, if you want to read that passage.
When you listen to the voice of Jehovah your God to keep his commandments and his statutes which are written in this book of the law, when you return to Jehovah your God with all your heart and soul. For this commandment which I am commanding you today is not too difficult for you, nor is it too far from you. It is not in heaven, that you should say, who will go up to heaven for us and get it for us and make us hear it, that we may do it. Nor is it beyond the sea, that you should say, who will cross the sea for us and get it for us and make us hear it, that we may do it. But the word is very near you, in your mouth, in your heart, that you may do it. Deuteronomy 30:10-12.
So it really is very close, isn't it? And it isn't difficult to understand either. 1 John 5:3 says, for this is the love of God. We keep his commandments, and his commandments are not burdensome. So it really is designed to be easy. If the commandments of our Creator are not a burden, then why should we not be able to practice them? Right? And, after all, they're close, they're easy. Why not do them? Why am I getting at practicing our faith? Well, for a couple of reasons. I've been accused of having people say, well, you're challenging the faith of people. Well, no. I've said before, and I'll say it again, I'm not challenging anyone's faith, but I will challenge the way you practice your faith. It's that simple. And we should, challenge our faith often. Am I getting this right? Am I getting that right? Am I doing this the way I should be? It's the way we apply the word of our Creator to our lives. David writes in Psalm 34:14, turn away from evil, do good, seek peace, and pursue it. Chase after it. We need to chase after it. We need to practice correctly. You might ask why. Why do I need to make sure I'm practicing it correctly? Hebrews 5:14 says that solid food is for the mature, who by constant use have trained their senses to distinguish good from evil. You see, we need to practice our faith correctly so that we know the difference between good and evil. And here's where I get to say that a lot of people attending worship services where they are, they're sitting where they're not being trained to know the difference between good and evil. And it absolutely is showing up in our world today. Job had some interesting answers when he was speaking to Eliphaz. And if you want to read that particular portion.
Instruct me, and I will be silent, and cause me to understand how I have erred. How painful are upright words, but what does your reproof prove? Do you think to reprove my words, or think of the words of one in despair as wind? You would even cast lots for the orphans and bargain over your friend. So now will be willing to face me and see if I lie to your face. Now turn from this, let there be no righteousness. Even turn from this, my righteousness is yet in it. Is there unrighteousness on my tongue? Cannot my palate discern destruction? Job chapter 6, verse 24 through 30.
Job gets to the point, he says, or he asks, can I taste the perverted things? And he's able to say that because he has practiced his faith correctly. Job, and I've said this often, was chosen by the Creator to defeat Satan in his particular instance. You remember, Job chapter 1. Have you considered my servant Job? He would not have chosen Job if he didn't trust Job to be able to defeat the enemy. He knows the difference between good and evil because he's been practicing his faith correctly. The news the last few months has been filled with stories of religious leaders who don't know the difference between good and evil. They don't know how to choose good over evil. Now, for the average people who, I trust the Creator of the universe, the God of Abraham, they need to practice their faith in order to know the difference between what God says is good and what he tells us is evil. We don't get to make the decision about what's good or bad. It's already been established by our Creator. We don't have the luxury of saying, it's just a little white lie. We don't have the luxury of saying, well, it was just a candy bar that I didn't pay for. We don't have the luxury to say, well, it's just a little adultery. It only happened once. We don't, and you've heard this before, we don't get to say everything in moderation, right? What's a little moderate stealing? What's a little moderate adultery? What's a little moderate murder? Who cares, right? Well, you should. You need to know and understand the difference between good and evil so that you're able to choose good. That sounds easy, doesn't it? But unless you practice your faith correctly, you do not know or understand the difference between good and evil. You see, by choosing good, we actually glorify and honor the Creator. By choosing good, we benefit the people around us. You see, by choosing good, we don't put ourselves first. We put our Creator first. We learn to do things His way. By choosing good, we remain under the Creator's protection, and we become that special treasure to Him. If you remember Exodus 19, if you hear my voice, and if you do the things I tell you, you will be a special treasure. How many times? I think it's 4 times in Jeremiah. If you hear my voice and obey my commands, then you will be my people, and I will be your God. You see, there's conditions that are set up. There's boundaries that are set up. There's rules that are established by our Creator to help guide you in this. And he's very simple about what these rules are. Here's the things you do, here's the things you don't do, and it's all found in His Word. We don't avoid evil for the simple purpose of, I want to go to heaven when I die. That's not what it's about. It's not about your destination. It's about your journey. We don't avoid evil so that we can receive accolades from other people. That's not what it's all about either. We choose good because it's what we're designed to do. If it wasn't what we're designed to do, how could Moses write, it's in your heart? It's how did he put it? It's in your mouth and it's in your heart. You already know because of the way you're designed. You already know. So why do people choose evil? Well, the answer to that is pretty simple. They have rejected good. They have rejected the Creator. They have rejected benefiting the people around them before they benefit themselves. They've put themselves in a position where I'm right all the time. I want what I want when I want it. Doesn't work very well, does it? They get their reward now. But for the believer, hopefully, they're going to practice their faith correctly. They're going to know the difference between good and evil. They're going to choose good, even though knowing the difference is easy. Doing the difference is sometimes difficult. You will get laughed at. You will get persecuted, sometimes by friends, family, and the people closest to you. But we choose good and practice our faith correctly to glorify and honor the Creator. Are we always going to get it right? Absolutely not. Don't think for a second that you're always, just because you practice your faith correctly, that you've reached perfection, because there are a lot of things that you will encounter that will prevent perfection. You're going to have questions about tradition. You're going to have questions about denominational doctrine, church doctrine. And you're going to experience things that will entice you away from good. But that's why we have the Word of our Creator. It's something we can refer to so that we won't be disappointed, so that we won't injure ourselves as we practice our faith. But we do need to practice. We need to practice. And remember, practice takes time. We have to set time apart so that we have the ability to practice. We need to practice diligently. Practicing your faith is not something you do for an hour a week. You have to do it every day, all day long. And you have to be motivated. And your motivation, hopefully, is glorifying and honoring the Creator, the God of Abraham. So, get out there and do your best. I was talking to someone who is a coach the other day. And you could hear in his voice when he was talking about coaching young people, he was excited. He enjoyed showing them how to do things correctly. And you should be excited You see, as you're practicing your faith, people are going to be looking at you going, what am I doing wrong? Why is that person so joyful? Why does that person seem so motivated? Why is that person? And they're going to look at you and they're going to say, I don't know what it is you got, but I got to get me some of it. That's terrible English, but it's just the way people talk today. When we practice our faith correctly, you get to coach because people will look to you for guidance. And when you have questions, when you're like, well, I'm not really sure what's going on, that's when you pick up the book and you look it up and you go, oh, here's how we have to do this. Here is the correct sheet of music with the right notes on it. Here is the right diagnosis that we should be looking for from a doctor. Oh, here's how we should try this case in court. Here's how we should do this. Here's how we should do whatever might come up. So go practice. It's not hard. You don't have to wait for somebody to go get it for you. It's very, very close to you. So go practice. And until Thursday, we do wish you many, many blessings, everyone.
Yes, we do.